Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're cracking open a book that's, well, it's a little bit controversial, but totally fascinating.
Okay, good one though.
It is. The 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. This book, it's like a guide to strategy and power dynamics pulled straight from history. We're talking Machiavelli, Catherine de Medici,
Some big hitters there.
Napoleon, Bismarck, all the greats.
Those are big names to drop right out of the gate.
I know, right? But Greene doesn't just tell their stories. He breaks down the strategies they use to gain and hold on to power. And the thing is,
I'm all ears.
These laws, they're not just for emperors and generals. They apply to everyday life.
You think so?
Oh, absolutely. Whether you're in the boardroom, negotiating a deal, or even just trying to get your point across in a meeting, understanding power dynamics is key.
Okay, I'm starting to see where you're going with this.
Right. So for those who haven't read the 48 Laws of Power, what's the elevator pitch? What's the core idea that Greene is trying to get across?
Well, imagine this, right? Like a set of universal laws, but for power. Greene argues that these laws have been at play throughout history, shaping, well, everything, really, like the rise and fall of empires.
Okay, so it's not just about like conquering nations.
No. It's so much broader than that. It's about understanding the subtle ways in which power operates in all aspects of life. Like think about persuasion, right? Knowing when to hold back information.
Ooh, strategic silence.
Exactly, or building a reputation. Even, understanding the motivations of others. It's all connected to these underlying power dynamics.
That makes sense. And Greene, he lays it all out in these 48 specific laws, each with its own historical examples. Like, what are some of the big themes that he keeps coming back to?
Well, one of the biggest ones is strategic interaction. Greene constantly emphasizes the importance of thinking several steps ahead. It's like
chess.
Yes, exactly like chess. You have to anticipate your opponent's moves, and position yourself to win. But it's not just about brute force either. There's this whole other layer of, appearance versus reality.
Ooh, that sounds juicy. Tell me more.
Well, think about it. Power isn't always about what's actually true. It's often about what people perceive to be true. Masters of power, they're masters of perception. They shape their image. They control the narrative.
And they use it to their advantage.
Precisely. They even use, calculated honesty to get what they want.
Wow. Okay, I'm already hooked. So let's get into some specifics. I'm dying to hear about these historical figures and how they connect to the 48 laws. Let's start with, we have to, right? Machiavelli.
Of course. We can't talk about power without bringing him up. And Greene does not disappoint, let me tell you.
So beyond just being like a cunning political strategist, what's Machiavelli's real connection to power?
The Prince, his most famous work, it really digs into how power is maintained, and Greene connects it to Law 15.
Which is?
Crush your enemy totally.
Whoa, okay, that's intense.
It is. It's a pretty stark worldview where any trace of your opponent's power, even a little bit, could come back to bite you.
So is Greene saying we should all be going around crushing our rivals? Like, should that be our life goal now?
No, not necessarily. Remember, Greene's presenting these laws as observations, not endorsements. He's not saying this is how things should be. But what's interesting is how he uses Machiavelli to illustrate the psychological impact of this law.
I see. So like even the threat of total annihilation can be powerful.
Right. Leaving no room for retaliation, that can be a huge deterrent. But of course, it also raises ethical questions, right? About the means versus the ends.
Oh, absolutely. It definitely gets morally complicated. Okay, so we've got Machiavelli and the idea of completely wiping out your enemies. Who's next on our power player list?
Let's move from crushing your enemies to something a little different. Let's talk about Catherine de Medici.
Ah, yes. Catherine de Medici, the queen of courtly intrigue. She was a master at navigating the royal court.
Oh, she was a pro, especially during that time. Intense religious and political upheaval in France. But she managed to hold on to power for decades.
Decades. Okay, so how does she fit into Greene's framework? Which law does she embody?
Law 20. Do not commit to anyone.
Ooh, I like that one.
Right. And Catherine, she really lived that law. She knew that in a world where alliances are constantly shifting.
Like the royal court.
Exactly. True power lies in maintaining your independence.
Yep.
And your flexibility.
So she was never truly on anyone's side, always keeping her options open.
Exactly. Catherine was the queen of calculated ambiguity. She played factions against each other, kept everyone guessing about her true loyalties.
That's so smart.
It's a brilliant example of how strategic detachment can be a tool for survival. and for power.
And I bet that's useful in modern times too, right? Always having an exit strategy, not being too reliant on any one person or group.
Oh, absolutely. It's a timeless principle.
Okay, I'm hooked. Give me another example.
All right, let's shift gears again. From courtly intrigue to military conquest. Let's talk about Napoleon Bonaparte.
Ah, Napoleon. The emperor who, he almost conquered all of Europe.
He had big ambitions, but his story, it's a cautionary tale about ambition and, the dangers of not knowing when to stop.
Because his ambition ultimately led to his downfall, right? Which law does Greene connect to Napoleon's story?
Law 47. Do not go past the mark you aimed for. In victory, learn when to stop.
Okay, that seems pretty relevant to Napoleon.
Oh, absolutely. And his invasion of Russia in 1812, that's the classic example of overreaching. He had incredible success early on.
He was on a roll.
Right. But that success, it fueled his desire for more. And it led to a fatal miscalculation.
So he basically didn't know when to quit while he was ahead, blinded by his own success.
So that's one way to put it. He pushed too far, overextended his resources, and, he underestimated his opponents. And it ultimately led to his downfall.
And this isn't just a lesson for emperors, right?
No, absolutely not. This applies to everyone, whether it's your career, your personal life, even just a hobby you're really into. Knowing when to consolidate your gains, when to hold back, that's crucial.
That's a powerful lesson. It's easy to get caught up in the momentum and lose sight of the bigger picture.
It happens to the best of us.
All right, so we've got Machiavelli, Catherine de' Medici, and Napoleon. Who's our last historical figure in this power-packed lineup?
Let's end with someone who, he brought a whole nation together through diplomacy and strategic maneuvering. Otto von Bismarck, the Iron Chancellor of Germany.
Bismarck, the architect of modern Germany.
Yeah.
What can we learn from him?
His story, it perfectly illustrates Law 3. Conceal your intentions.
Okay, keep him guessing.
Exactly. Bismarck was a master of realpolitik. It's a political philosophy based on practicality and power, not so much on ethics or ideology.
So he was all about getting things done, even if it meant bending the rules a little.
You got it. He knew that if you reveal your goals too early, it gives others a chance to block you.
Makes sense.
So he masked his intentions, played the long game, built alliances, manipulated perceptions, until the time was right to make his move.
Wow, this is all fascinating stuff. Machiavelli's ruthlessness, Catherine de' Medici's strategic detachment, Napoleon's cautionary tale, and Bismarck's mastery of deception. But so far, we've mainly talked about these laws in a historical context. What I'm really curious about is how these age-old principles apply to us, to our modern lives.
Oh, that's where things get really interesting.
I bet.
Because while these laws are rooted in history, human behavior, it hasn't really changed all that much.
True.
We're still constantly negotiating, persuading, trying to get ahead.
Just trying to get by.
Exactly. And understanding these power dynamics, it can be incredibly valuable in our everyday lives.
Okay, so spill the tea. How do we actually apply these laws in the 21st century?
Let's dive in.
All right, so we're talking about applying these ancient power plays, these laws, to modern life.
Exactly. And the thing is, even though they seem ancient, the core principles of human behavior, those haven't really changed that much.
Yeah, I guess not. I mean, we're still all trying to figure out how to get along, get ahead.
Yeah. Right. Persuading, negotiating, it's all still happening.
So it's not like we're trying to become, like Machiavellian schemers or anything.
No, not at all. It's more about understanding the rules of the game we're all playing, even if we don't always realize it.
Okay, I like that. So what's a good example of that?
Well, let's look at Law 12. Use selective honesty and generosity to disarm your victim.
Okay, that sounds a little harsh at first.
I know, right? But let's break it down a bit.
Okay, I'm listening.
Imagine you're in a tough negotiation, okay? Like you're asking for a raise.
Been there.
Right. And if you just go in demanding everything you want.
Yeah, guns blazing.
Exactly. You're probably just going to put the other person on the defensive. But what if you try something different? What if you're surprisingly open, like about a mistake you made, or you offer a genuine compliment?
I see what you're saying. You're kind of catching them off guard.
Right. It's like you're not fitting into that typical, tough negotiator mold. And by being selectively honest, even generous, you can create this sense of trust.
So it's about building a connection.
Exactly. And reciprocity. It's not about being manipulative. It's more like strategically lowering their guard.
So you can have a more open conversation.
Precisely. You're creating a space where everyone can benefit. It's not a zero-sum game anymore.
I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, what's another law that applies to, everyday life?
Well, Law 43 is a good one. Work on the hearts and minds of others.
Oh, okay. So that sounds like it's about perception.
It is. Think about it. We all do this to some extent. We might act a bit differently around our boss than we do with our friends, right?
Oh, for sure.
We emphasize different parts of our personality. But Greene, he takes this idea further. He says that masters of power are really good at adapting their behavior to achieve specific goals.
So it's about like knowing your audience.
Yes, and understanding the unspoken rules of the game. It's about playing strategically.
So it's not about being fake. It's about being, I don't know, adaptable.
Exactly. It's about reading the room, recognizing those power dynamics, and then adjusting your style accordingly. But it's important to remember, there's a fine line here. You have to use this knowledge ethically.
Yeah, because Greene's book, it can be a little unsettling at times.
Oh, it definitely can. I mean, he lays bare some of the, well, less savory aspects of human behavior.
So how do we use these laws for good?
That's the challenge. It's like having this powerful tool. You could use it to build something or to destroy something.
That's a good analogy.
Greene's not saying we should all become ruthless manipulators. He's just showing us how power works so we can make better choices about how we engage with it.
So it's about awareness.
Yes. And self-awareness, too. It's a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
You can use this knowledge to protect yourself from manipulation, but you also have to be careful not to become the manipulator.
That's a really good point. What are some of the, I don't know, like the potential downsides of getting too focused on these laws? Like, could it backfire?
Oh, definitely. One risk is, well, you could become overly cynical, distrustful. If you see every interaction as a power play, you might miss out on those genuine connections.
Right, and collaboration.
Exactly. It's a delicate balance, recognizing the dynamics of power without letting it consume you.
So it's a tool, not a weapon.
I like that. It's about being a savvy player, not a ruthless conqueror.
Right. And honestly, I think most of us already kind of understand these laws, even if we don't have the words for them.
Oh, I think so too. It's like we just haven't put it all together in this way before.
Okay, I'm definitely sold on this book. What other laws should we explore?
Well, let's dive into some strategies for self-preservation and maybe the art of persuasion.
Perfect. Let's do it. Wow, this deep dive, it's been a whirlwind. I mean, from Machiavelli to Catherine de' Medici to Napoleon to Bismarck, we've covered some serious power moves.
It's fascinating how those historical figures, they really bring these laws to life.
They do, and it makes you realize these laws, they're not just ancient history, they're still so relevant today.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. The world might look different, but those underlying power dynamics, those haven't changed.
Yeah, that's true. So, okay, let's think about our listener for a second. What's the big takeaway from all of this? How can someone actually use these insights in their own life?
Well, I think the most important thing to remember is these laws, they're tools. Tools for understanding, not for manipulation.
Right. So it's not about becoming some power-hungry,
Machiavellian schemer.
Exactly. It's about, I don't know, becoming more aware.
Yes. Awareness is key. It's about understanding the forces at play in your life and in the world around you.
So it's more about self-awareness and strategic thinking, not necessarily about trying to control everyone.
Exactly. You can't control everything, but you can learn to recognize those subtle ways in which power operates.
And then use that knowledge to your advantage.
Right. To make conscious choices, to protect yourself from being manipulated.
Okay, that makes sense. It's like becoming a more savvy player, not a ruthless conqueror.
Right. I like that. It's about navigating the complexities of human relationships with, with more confidence, more skill.
I can definitely see that. This has been so insightful. I feel like I have this whole new way of seeing the world now.
That's what's so great about these laws. They really do give you a new lens.
They do. Okay, so before we wrap things up, any final thoughts for our listeners out there? Anything you want to leave them with?
I think the biggest takeaway is, knowledge is power, right? By understanding these laws, you're not condoning unethical behavior. You're becoming more aware of it.
So you can make better choices.
Exactly. You can protect yourself. And you can also, use your influence for good.
Well said. It's not about becoming like a master manipulator, but about using this knowledge wisely, ethically.
Right. Thinking about the impact your actions have on others.
This has been an absolutely fascinating exploration of the 48 Laws of Power. And if you're intrigued by what we've talked about today, I highly encourage you to check out the book for yourself. You might be surprised at how much it changes your perspective. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive